So we've finally gotten to see the new Hermes Fall Winter 2025 collection runway. I literally needed about a week to kind of like digest my thoughts. What did I think of the runway? I'm super excited. This is going to be an amazing season for the house. Not only did we get some amazing ready to wear, we got 7 new bag styles, and some of these are going to blow your mind. There's things that we've seen before in new materials, and then there's brand new bags with like new locking mechanisms and materials, and it's just so exciting. Quite honestly, when it comes to the house of Hermes and you think runways, you're thinking beautifully tailored pieces, subtle colors, just gorgeous materials. But this time they were really subversive, honestly, with this runway. It was very powerful and sexy, yet at the same time still very refined, button up with its equestrian roots. But for Hermes women's runway, this is like the most unusual one that we've seen in like the last 10 years. It's an exciting time for the house. Beautifully tailored. We saw some Y2K underlying themes with some of the kick flare pants and the different skirts and things. But the colors, you guys, the colors were impeccable. So the show starts out, in a way it kind of reminded me of like a horse stable. We had that beautiful soft material on the ground, looked like dirt kind of, and then there were like the different walls that in my mind kind of brought back to my memory like horse stables, where they're kind of like weaving through the different stables and whatnot before they got out to the main runway, the circle. With the coloring, you guys, it was just pure perfection. So it starts out in noir. We saw a lot of like black, charcoal, dark muted shades of gray, and then it kind of lightened up into more warmer tones. We saw kind of like chai and biscuit colors and nata. Eventually, at some point, we were energized by this bright shock of green in the middle of the runway. Honestly, so excited. That's why I'm wearing my green Daniel Lee Burberry today. We're trying to be in theme here. But honestly, I'm really excited that I was able to snatch my Birkin, the Vert Foncé in box, when I did, because that is like now the house's hottest color, which is so wild. Like total 360 degrees, like total turnaround for the house. And so this was just such an exciting runway. And I'm super excited to announce this coming Monday during my Caleb Live. We are going to be diving in and reacting and watching the full runway with our viewers, so make sure you set your clocks Monday evening at 7 p.m. Always a ton of fun, so grab a snack or your dinner, I guess, at 7 p.m. Join my husband and I, and we're going to react to this fashion show and several others from this past season. Now, before we get started, I want to have a huge thank you to PurseBop. They always keep us Hermes collectors in check with the information, the amazing articles, and a lot of the photos and things that I'm using today. I'm going to cite them and their sources as well down in the description as we react to these beautiful, new, exciting bags for Hermes. Now, let's kick it off first, though, with probably my most favorite and the most iconic, the new Birkin. Now, the Birkin was used heavily during this show. Now, normally in past seasons, we've seen the Kelly heavily featured. This time, it was the Birkin's time to shine, and we got to see it in several different sizes, ranging from everyone's current favorite, the 25 centimeter, up to my favorite, the 35 centimeter. But the most interesting, and probably the one I was most excited to see, was the Futura Wool, or felted wool. Now, this felted wool, and I'm so glad PurseBop pointed this out because it reminded me of the Go Team Birkin from 2023, which was one of my personal favorite iterations of the Birkin. I loved its over-exaggerated corners down to the bottom and the big tassel, and it's just like its sporty aesthetic. This was much more refined, much more kind of pulled back in a way, and it was shown in shades of gray. I believe there was like a chocolate version, and then of course there was Vert Foncé, and the Vert Foncé version, you guys, was literally so stunning. So with this, you had kind of like a shocking emerald green felted wool in the middle. I want to say that it's trimmed out in a swift leather. Now, I know the Picotin that we're going to talk about here in a moment was, so I'm assuming they kind of used the same materials for these felted wool Birkins. I don't know what I liked more. Of course, I love the classic 35 centimeter size. That's the size that I carry all the time. But the 25, even though it was more squat in dimension, the leather accents were just so next level. We've got the big chunky corners, the beautiful felted wool. Honestly, it was kind of stunning. And I know a lot of people are going to kind of turn their nose up at the idea of a felted wool Birkin, but wool as in general is just such a resilient fabric. It has excellent moisture wicking properties, which are going to be very important for those snowy days, especially here in Chicagoland. Well, not so much this year, but maybe next year we'll see more snow. I'd love to anyway. I love snow. And to round out this little Birkin moment, we saw several different materials that we're all very familiar with. First up, we saw the chev leather, which you can kind of tell by that kind of spine down the middle of the bag and the leather skin. And then we also saw it in, again, one of my favorite heritage leathers, the box leather. And they were all done in like muted neutral tones, very earthy, very of the aesthetic from this collection. And I think that they absolutely nailed it with this presentation. We've talked a lot about the felted wool Birkin, but let's take a look at the felted wool Picotin. It's very similar again to that Go Team aesthetic that we saw in 2023, but a little bit more refined, a little bit more pared down, a little bit more simple. Of course, the one that we saw on the runway was in the 18 size, done in that beautiful Futura wool with the swift details. Again, iconic. They nailed it. I don't know. Let me know down in the comments. Do I need a Picotin TGM31? It's kind of growing on me as a style aesthetic, and I love the oversized chunkiness of the discontinued, I think, TGM. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Is that my next Hermes bag? We're getting close to my birthday in like, what, 6-7 months. So it's time to start thinking about my next H bag, and I typically buy it around my birthdays. Is the Picotin, is that the direction we're going this year? I don't know. Let's have that conversation down in the comments. To round out kind of the iconic bags of the house, we now have the Kelly Cellier Clouty, and Clouty, meaning studded, is the perfect name for this bag because it is literally covered in studs. Now, we did see this last year in the noir colorway, also paired in palladium, but this year we're doing kind of an off-white version, and it is oh so stunning. I think of the two, the black version leaned very moto style, of course, with all the studs and whatnot. The white, I don't know, it's giving such a beautiful wintry aesthetic, and I think it's going to be, of the two, I'd probably have to prefer the white. I think it's very refined, very bright, very cheerful. I was also reading an article on the PurseBop, of course, it's where I get all of my hard-hitting news. They kind of did a breakdown of buying the mini Kelly over in Paris versus here in the States. It's like a savings of $3,000. Of course, the Clouty version, that's going to be a lot more than our typical like Epsom or Chev leather mini Kelly, but something to think about, food for thought. Like, do we just fly to Paris and buy our bags? Is that easier? I don't know. I'd be curious to find out firsthand. Sticking to this Clouty kind of version, we've also saw the Minaudry Sanglans kind of repurposed with also this studded energy. It was also shown in the white, as opposed to the more free-form aesthetic of the studding on the Kelly. This one was a very grid pattern. It was very buttoned up, very lined up, and I think the Minaudry Sanglan, I haven't seen it in person yet, unfortunately, but I would love to because I think it's such a unique design. I love how the one single kind of is the flap of the bag. I think it's unique. I think it's very interesting, and I love the Hermes. They have their classic symbols of the house, but then they're also not afraid to kind of reimagine them in new modern ways. And I think that is probably what leads to the house's success. Like time and time again, especially over the last couple of years, luxury itself has taken kind of a nosedive as far as profits go, but Hermes just keeps growing and growing and growing. Probably doesn't hurt that we have to play the game, if you know what I'm talking about with the journey. That house, it manages to stay relevant, desirable. This is just another kind of piece of that evidence that we've seen before. I love the Minaudry Sanglan. Now, we also saw a couple of hacks at the Reci, the Haut à Quoi, if you know what I'm talking about. Again, saw the one that was shown last year for the men's collection with the kind of the connect the dots. I don't remember what my initial reaction was to that. I don't know if I liked it or if I just kind of tolerated it. The first hack was absolutely unique. We'll say unique. We're going to start there. We're going to start with the term unique. If I remember right, I don't think I loved a lot of the bags. I loved the clothing from the men's show. I don't know if I loved a lot of the bags. I'll have to go back and watch my older video to see what I thought, but we saw it again. This time it's being shown in kind of like a dark chocolate brown box calf leather, it looks like. And we also saw kind of an updated cargo hack. This time it's more refined. We have those two flap pockets shown on the front, just kind of hanging from underneath the flap of the bag. And I do like it. We're seeing it here in kind of a, I don't know if that's like a Togo leather, but it's definitely a pebbled leather of some sort, which kind of helps add to its refinement, its casual nature. I don't know, the hacks are fun. I've always wanted to try on a hack 32. I love the size of my Birkin 35. I just wish sometimes it was a little bit thinner. So hack 32, maybe is that my 2025 bag? I don't know. We're not talking about my bag. We're talking about new Hermes. So let's move on to the Della Cavallera. We've seen it for about 5 years now. It debuted 5 years ago. And again, just such a classic staple of the house. It's not one of their more iconic quota bags, so anyone could technically walk in and get one. It's over the top in nature as far as the hardware goes, but overall it's a very quiet bag. Gorgeous leather, of course. We saw it in shades of brown here on the runway. We saw it in both Epsom and box cut leather, I think, and we also saw it in the noir, which really pops with that palladium hardware. Now, to round out the icons, the bags that we're all familiar with, let's talk about the Bolide, and once again they've pulled out all the stops and they've given it to the Bolide. Surprisingly enough. With the Bolide, we saw it again on the runway in various sizes, anywhere from the petite mini all the way up to the size 30. The Bolide, it's a house classic. It was one of the first bags to actually have a zipper, and I think they have one of them on display in the house museum, if I'm not mistaken. Aside from the typical leathers that we see, we were able to see it in the Volynka Leather. Now with this one, I went into a deep dive in a previous video, which I will have linked down below for you. If you in your lifetime have the ability to touch this leather, feel it, smell it, it has a very distinct smell. I was able to do so at the Hermes in the making event here in Chicagoland. What was that, back in 2023 already? Time flies. Volynka Leather, guys, is on another level. It has such an amazing history, so make sure you go and watch that video after this. But just seeing it again, again on the runway in the Reese was just kind of a really cool event. I love when they get out the Volynka leather. It is fabulous. Now we're going to dive in and talk about the new bags that we haven't seen before. But before we do that, let me introduce myself. Hey guys, my name's Caleb. I post luxury and lifestyle related content both here on the channel on YouTube and over my website, curatedbycaleb.com, where you're going to find a lot of luxury and lifestyle related things like blog articles. I also have a full store on my website where I post things both from my closet and things that I found for you guys out in the wild. So make sure you go and check that out. And if you want a little bit more access to the channel, consider joining the membership. We have an amazing community. It's very engaged. We have a Discord, secret members lives. We have a members meetup every year where we all get together, either here in Chicago or soon to be in another city. I cannot wait to announce that. And it's just fun to get together with like-minded people who also enjoy this beautiful stuff that we're all obsessed with. So definitely consider joining the membership. There's one bag that they announced. It wasn't shown on the runway, but they were able to see it at the Reese. Of the new bags, this is one of my, honestly, I love them all, but this is probably one of my top favorites. This is called the stripped back tote. If you love the Birkin, but you don't necessarily love the idea of the flap and messing with the sangles, check out the stripped back tote. It's very similar in shape, and aside from just those two buckles and the 4 feet on the bottom, it is very minimal when it comes to hardware. Now, this one was shown in a beautiful rich chocolate brown suede with leather accents. I would be interested to see this one in person. It looks stunning at the Reese and that gorgeous, rich, sumptuous suede. And in this photo, which again, I'm going to have all my sources linked down below, it looks like we have some new Apple collab products coming out. And it looks like they're also doing some cute little marquetry little card holders with different jockeys and things from obviously like horseback riding, equestrian nature. Check out the strip back tote because it is 100% a vibe. We also saw another bag, which I am incredibly excited about. This is one that if I were offered a bag in store, I would probably have to say yes because it is so stunning. Honestly, for my Dooney and Burke collectors, which I know I have quite a few of here watching this, let me know in the comments, does this give you kind of like vintage all-weather leather bucket bag energy? Because when I saw this, I immediately thought of that gorgeous navy blue one that I used to have. So this is coming fall winter of 2025, and it is very versatile. We have that big lobster claw on the one side. The strap, if you want to wear it short shoulder, kind of loops through the big circle on the other end with the beautiful enamel hardware, and you can wear it short shoulder, or you can take it through the loop and then use the lobster claw on the loop, and now you have crossbody or long shoulder, and it's very similar to like my Coach Bleecker bucket bag, the duffel bag I should say. So I love the versatility, I love the design, I like that it has a couple of different leathers. We have a more smooth leather down at the bottom, a beautiful kind of pebbled leather up at the top on the body of the bag, and overall it is absolutely stunning. We saw it in several amazing colors. We saw it in like a noir, a deep chocolate brown, gold, I think biscuit or chai. Also keeping with that shoulder bag aesthetic, we saw another bag kind of pop onto the runway. Right now it's just called shoulder bag. Is that its real name? I don't know. It's probably gonna have a much more fun name, hopefully. It's very similar to the Della Cavaliera, kind of in like its shape and aesthetic, but it's got a different type of closure, which is kind of exciting. I love when Hermes, they get metal hardware correct. Like they do it right, and it's really kind of a rugged looking bag. I could see this, being perfect for both dressing up for the office, for weekend wear. Like this is gonna be probably your number one grab and go for those looking for a new one. I'm excited for this one. I think this is going to be a good one. For those of you who love like little TBE energy, pochette energy, then check out the new Hermes pochette. Now this one, it's very minimal on hardware. All you really have on the exterior are the two H buckles at either end of the strap. It is absolutely beautiful. So we saw it in black, gold, white, and of course Vert Foncé. I could see some of these lighter colors being worn into spring and summer next year. If you have the chance, snap this one up too. Just buy them all. Honestly, all the bags in this show were absolutely stunning, but I could see this one. This one's going to be a sleeper hit. Trust me, it's going to take off. It's going to be a big deal. Hermes has also introduced a new bag called the box bag. And this one, guys, it's beautiful. It's very refined. Again, we saw in a lot of the same colors that we've seen so far, but this one has some new hardware. So the hardware, it's electrum. So it's going to be a little bit of a mix of gold and palladium silver. It's such a unique opening. So when you're looking at the buckle, it just looks like an H. You push down at the bottom and then like the two gold sides of the H flip forward, releasing the flap. We saw it both here on the box bag and the vanity bag that we're going to be talking about here in just a moment. I really do love this bag. I think it's stunning. I love them all. Honestly, this whole runway show is an absolute hit, and I have not been this excited about an Hermes runway show. What was that? Autumn winter 23, I think, when it was all like done in like the wheat fields and like the grasses and things. Like that was a stunning runway. This one was just as good, and I'm excited to see this box bag. Now, if you like this electrum hardware but you're not sure if you really want to buy into it on a new bag, then of course the Kelly, the 2424, the Synhectic, they also share this electrum hardware. It's honestly really pretty. I love the duality of the two tones together, and the silver gold combo on the Vert Foncé box leather version is chef's kiss. It is absolutely perfection. I think I've said that about every single bag we've talked about today, right? probably. Don't hate me in the comments. And that brings us to the vanity bag. Now, the vanity bag was very interesting. This is, of course, a new design for the house for fall/winter 2025, and it actually opened the show in the noir colorway. With the vanity case, it's going to share that same Electrum hardware that the box bag has that we just talked about. It came in 2 different sizes. There was, again, that kind of like clutch size that we saw in the first look, both shown like noir and like a more warm, neutral tone of brown. But then we also saw it in a larger size. This size is going to be perfect for those of you who like to travel in style, hopefully on a PJ. I wouldn't want to fly commercially with this, but this size is actually usable, and I think this would be really good for those of you who are in the makeup trade. Perfect way to carry your Hermes brushes, powders, and different things of that nature, beauty products. I have my Fenty concealer, that's about all I wear, but well, I've got my Hermes chapstick, so hopefully there's a space for my Hermes chapstick here in the vanity case. We saw kind of, again, those exaggerated corner covers that kind of harkens back to the Birkin that we talked about in the felted wool earlier. Again, with that beautiful closure, you have places for some fragrance bottles, different powders, nail polishes, your brushes. I think they're really pushing their beauty, which is exciting because honestly, I haven't had a lot of experience with their beauty, but I'm very happy with the chapstick. I am. I'll link it for you down below. Overall, guys, this show was just perfection from start to finish, from the very first look to the last look. There were the more, the traditionally muted shades that we see for fall and winter, the rich browns, the charcoals, the black, but then with that pop of energy with the green, and then of course the vert foncé. I cannot never say no to some vert foncé. Overall, start to finish, just absolute perfection. I would love to know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. Let me know, what was your favorite bag? Were there any that you weren't really loving? And make sure to go over to the PurseBop, check out the article, because they, like I said, PurseBop is the best place for Hermes collectors to get their information from. Check out my article, and also check out my previous video where I tell you more about the Volynka Leather, which will be linked at the end of this episode. Anyway, thank you for joining me today. I hope you're as excited as I am for this show. Until next time, stay safe, have fun. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.